Let me tell you what we're doing and what the course is about. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German theologian who lost his life in May of 1945 as he was executed by Heinrich Himmler as the war came to a close. Heinrich Himmler was head of the SS. And Bonhoeffer has a wonderful phrase to describe what we're about in here. The call to discipleship is the call to change. The call to discipleship is the call to change. Christ calls us, and he asks us to take a good look inside, and he calls us to change. Think of it this way. Think of God giving you a gift of years. Now, how God distributes this gift of years is an utter mystery to me. Some people get 5 years, some people get 10, some people get 20. Some people who are rampantly evil get 90 years and seem to fall asleep with a smile on their face. It is a mystery to me. But he gives us a gift of years. I don't know how many you're going to get. It's a gift that Christ calls us to use well. It's not a gift that we want to, just to mix metaphors here, to be something like sand that just filters through our fingers unreflectively. We live our lives, yes, faith of some kind, then we die. It's very important. It's a gift for which God holds us responsible. So he gives us a gift of years. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's something wrong with us. And we'll talk about this in some detail in the class. There's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with human beings. I, for instance, was last week in Rwanda, and there was this horrific genocide, if you remember, in Rwanda in 1994, where in 100 days, 1 million people were killed in a country the size of Vermont, largely with machetes. And that same kind of thing is happening today in the Darfur region in the Sudan. It's happened in Germany in World War II. This is simply evidence on a grand scale that we are not what we are meant to be. And the third thing is that God has acted on our behalf in Jesus Christ so that we can change. With the result being this is not rocket science. The result is love. Love for God and love for neighbor. That's the result. That's the call. The call for all of us is to learn how to love well, to learn how to love in a holy manner, to be safe people to be around. And it's hard. Have you found it easy to change? I haven't. My goodness gracious. I've been working at this stuff for 30, 40 years. There's just something about us. We're cracked. We're skewed. We're screwed up. And so he loves us enough to say, I'm going to enter into relationship with you. I'm going to call you to change. And he asks us to follow, and then the hard work begins. So that's what the course is about. The first half of the course is basically a theology of the spiritual life. How we change spiritually, how we grow spiritually, to form and shape us into the image of Christ. And as we're ever more deeply formed and shaped into Christ's image, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Because love is the result. Not some kind of moral rigorism. Not some kind of self-righteousness that everybody dislikes. Not so that we can reach a certain point spiritually where we feel we can pull out a spiritual baseball bat and beat somebody's brains out. Love is the goal. Love is the goal. Now, one thing I want you to do is to bring a Bible to class. So if you don't have a Bible today, that's fine. And so as I walk you through a couple passages, as we think about this call to discipleship, this call to change. So, Mark chapter 10, starting with verse 17. Let me read this text to you. As Jesus started on his way, a man ran up to him and fell on his knees before him. So this is a young man, and he runs publicly. Jewish men did not run in public. It was embarrassing. It was culturally the wrong thing to do. He sees Jesus. He's so excited about seeing Jesus that it's like he loses his mind. And he runs up to him. Can you see him? And he's kneeling before Jesus. He's kneeling in front of him. He loves him from what he's heard. This is a great rabbi. He wants to be encouraged. He wants to know, as the text says, good teacher. He's so polite. Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? That's a good question. And Jesus responds like this. Why do you call me good? Can you see Jesus looking at him? I don't think he's yelling at him. I think he's just asking. He's looking down. Why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. Do you know who you're talking to? Is that why you called me good? Do you have an insight into who I am that other people don't have? Are you just being polite? Why do you call me good? And then, what should he do to inherit eternal life? You know the commandments. This is Jesus speaking now. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not give false testimony, do not defraud, honor your father and mother. So Jesus rehearses the covenant stipulations of Israel to the young man. These are part of the Ten Commandments, right? He says, you know the commandments. Now, at that point, the young man's expression, I think, becomes more excited. And the young man responds, Teacher, he declared, all these things I've kept since I was a boy. Mark tells us that Jesus is not upset with that response. He doesn't say to him, oh, please, really? You've kept all these since you were a boy. How self-deceived can you be? No, he doesn't say that. Mark says that Jesus looked at him and loved him. He looks at him and loves him. Now catch this. He looks at him, he loves him, and he proceeds to break his heart. Love can be astringent. Love can be cleansing. Love can be very difficult. Jesus looked at him and loved him. Now imagine if you were that young man. So Jesus says, one thing you lack. Go sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you'll have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. At this, the man's face fell. He went away sad because he had great wealth. It was as though Jesus Christ took a beam of light and shone it on the one area where this man's character was deeply flawed. And he said, he didn't say this to everybody, by the way, but he said, for you, you've got to give away everything you possess and follow me. He breaks the man's heart to save his life. And the young man walks away. I'm really hoping that we'll meet him in heaven and that there's a happy ending to the story. But at that point in time, he does not respond, does not hear that call to follow because he had great wealth. And apparently, in this case, his wealth had blinded him to his deeper need. So Christ issues this call to change. Now here's the problem. It's scary to change, is it not? You find it not to be somewhat intimidating? At those points where we really know we're aching to change and have tried to change and we haven't been successful? I'm telling you, it's so important to know what God is like, or we won't be able to heed that call. So I want to walk you through 4 views of God that can get in the way. What I want to call dysfunctional views of God. I don't particularly like that word dysfunctional. It's so mechanical and so on, but it's the best I could come up with. Views of God that are not healthy. Views of God that will get in the way of this call to change if we think of God along these lines. Now, I'm sure there's 20 views of God that can get in the way, but as I've dealt with Eastern students over the years, these seem to be the top 4. But here's the first one. God is a distant, demanding parent with a voice that sounds like this. Well, honey, you know I love you. I really do. But I don't know, honey, I don't know why you're not doing better. I've given you so much. I've given you everything. I want you to do better. You know I love you. It's like a Norman Bates God. And some of us are troubled by that voice because what our parents teach us about God can sometimes sound like that whiny, never satisfied, you can always do better, I don't know why you're not. God is a distant, demanding parent. Number two, God is a harsh taskmaster. It's more like God is somehow a drill instructor with a voice like this. I am not satisfied with you, and I will not be satisfied with you until you are where I want you to be. And that is not where you are right now. Do you understand me? And the proper response is, yes, sir. No excuses, sir. My goodness gracious, is that someone who you want to follow? No, I just want to hide in a foxhole. But I can't tell you how many people struggle with an image of God like that. Or this other image that we first talked about. These are all serious, but God is some kind of a cosmic monster. And this dysfunctional view of God is tied in very closely with the philosophical problem of evil. My oldest son, when he was 6 or 7, I still remember it, we were talking and he was going to sleep, 6 or 7 years old. And he said this. He said, Dad, if God is so good, and God is so loving, and God is so powerful, why do so many bad things happen in the world? You know what he was asking? What's God like? And he said, even that little boy was saying, in the world, Dad, there's things that happen. Is God powerful? Does God love us? The same son, when he was 22, asked me, Dad, where was God at Auschwitz? Where was God in Rwanda in 1994? We all have those questions from time to time, do we not? If we don't think of them through carefully and answer them well, pray it through, it can be deeply troubling to us. What's God like? Last one for today. God is this kind of a self-indulgent grandfather figure. This would be somewhat like this, I suppose. Well, look what they're doing today. You know, I don't know what to do with them. I just love them so much. But, you know, I'll forgive them, and they know I'll forgive them, so they just live like hell. It's called the sin of presumption. The sin of presumption is to live in such a manner that we presume against God's grace. C.S. Lewis talks about this kind of figure, and he speaks of the God whose sole purpose in life is that at the end of each day he can say, my everybody had a good time. God's not like that. God's not like that. So the key question I want you to chew about and think about till next class is this. All right, if these views are dysfunctional in some way, what is God like? What is God like? And we'll go from there.